Spurs v Chelsea, 1967. White Hart Lane was one of the first matches in England to be delayed due to crowd trouble. It's led to 56 years of hostilities between the two hooligan firms, the Yid Army and the Cheslea Headhunters as we know them today. This story is from the pre-Headhunters and Yid Army days. We let Steve from the North End Road Boys of Chelsea tell his story from that memorable day. About 50 of North End Road Boys met up at Liverpool Street Station. From there we went by BR and arrived just before 11 o'clock. Walking round the corner onto the high street, we found it deserted, so we crossed the road and went into what is now Valentino's. A lot of us were wearing Tottenham scarves, so we didn't get stopped by the police. In the pub, the landlord took us as Spurs fans and served us. Then around 11:30, the real Spurs turned up and we took the scarves off and chanted Chelsea and steamed in. They never knew what hit them. Over the bar, grabbing the optics, they went flying through the windows. Tables and chairs were smashed. Then the sound of police cars, so we scampered up the high street toward Edmonton. Those of us that made it around 20 went into a cafe and had dinner. Then, around 1:30, we strolled down the high street, now packed with people. We met up with some of those that were in the pub with us and went in the ground. Once inside, we straight away realised we'd got in before the main yard firm, so we kicked off with those standing on the terrace near the entrance gate behind the goal. Clearing it, we waited for the inevitable, and it came from behind as the Yids came onto the terrace from an entrance gate further down. They charged, we stood, and it went toe to toe. More Chelsea arrived to swell our numbers, and we forced the Yids back towards the other entrance gate. A few of our number were attacking those that tried to come through the gate we were at. One of our number had a wooden mallet and was knocking Yids out right, left and centre. Then the police arrived and formed a line between the US and the Yids and started throwing people out. But moments later, they'd reappeared after paying to get back in again. DA reappeared 5 times, I myself 3 times. The fighting continued as more of the shed arrived to swell our numbers. But the Yids were also increasing their numbers and the fighting continued as the teams came out. Then a breakthrough. The Yids, who were down by the pitch wall, were getting battered and started to climb over the low wall and onto the pitch. Some of us followed them and the fight continued on the grass behind the goal. Then a few of the Yids ran and it led to a sheep like stamped. We stood there cheering but were charged by a group of filth, so jumped back over the wall and took a large group of Yids from the rear who were fighting the shed. Taken by surprise, they started to run. I then noticed that we had cleared the Park Lane end and it was totally under Chelsea control. We then saw that the ref had taken the players off the pitch and it was 3:20 when things started to calm down. But small pockets of Yids kept being found and dealt with. It was the first time in post-war football history that a kickoff was delayed for so long. And when Yids were seen to be massing on the shelf, we charged them and the fighting carried on till half-time. By now, the filth had grown in number, as reserves must have been called up, and they formed a number of human barriers, although fighting erupted a few times more as the shed cleared the shelf. The Park Lane terrace and shelf were firmly in Chelsea hands and stayed that way for the rest of the game. With the game over, we left the ground en masse and saw a huge mass of Yids waiting on the high street. Holding everyone back till we were all in the street, DA shouted charge. There must have been around 5,000 of us, and we went through the police lines like a knife through butter. Steaming into the waiting Yids, our momentum forced them back across the road. Then they started to run. As a footnote, the Evening Standard ran a back-page story about the riot and had a photo taken of the fighting from the pitch. And there in the middle was one of the North End Road boys in a stripped t-shirt, and some old biddy wrote in saying he was the one with the mallet. A few days later, he was arrested and got 6 months. We thank Steve for his recollection of the events of that day. Both firms went on to become in the top 10 hooligan firms of all time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to help our channel grow and give you bigger, better content.